Hi there, Denise Santangelo here. Welcome to the very first episode of Thrive After Three. I'm your host, and I am an ADHD specialist myself. I'm a therapist, licensed to practice in Connecticut, and I am also a card carrying member of the ADHD Club myself. So I work with kids as young as 4 and adults as old as I never know what to say here. Sometimes I say as old as 400, but for this, I'm going to say old enough to know better with some things, but young enough to still forget where they put their keys, right? So, this podcast is all about real life with ADHD. And it's not going to be the sugar coated Pinterest version, but it's going to be messy and hilarious and frustrating, hopefully inspiring, right? And sometimes a bit tear stained, when we're talking about the journey that it really sometimes is. So, I want to set the stage. And I want to kind of explain what we're going to be doing here over these episodes. We're going to tackle a lot of skills that actually work, right? Not just the theory, although sometimes I geek out and we'll talk a little bit about theory here and there. But I'm not going to talk to you about like the try harder, right? Because if try harder worked, you wouldn't be sitting here listening to me right now, right? You'd be on a beach somewhere, sipping lemonade, chilling out, perfectly on time for everything. But that's not what's going on, and that's okay. So, here we're going to explore some executive functioning hacks, right? That's essentially like, remembering like, where you put those keys or like, where your charger actually is, right? Then we're going to do some emotional regulation skills, right? Because sometimes ADHD feels like you're living life stuck on like the volume knob is on like 11, right? Relationship strategies, how to like not turn every forgotten chore into World War III. That's a biggie. School, work tools, how to essentially show off your brilliance, right? Instead of drowning in a bunch of unfinished to dos. And this is a really big one. Self compassion. We're going to talk a lot about this one because ADHD does not mean you are broken. It means your brain runs on a different operating system. And once you learn the shortcuts, you will thrive. So, a skill for adolescents and teens is where we're going to start. I'm going to try to, in every episode, kind of blend in both, okay, teens and adults. So let's kick this off with one concrete skill for teens. All right. This one, both can use teens and adults, any age really. It is called the 5-minute rule, and I love it. Here's how it works. Okay, so you're staring at your homework or like chores, right? Or like the dreaded email that you have to send to your teacher. Tell yourself, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes, just 5, right? Why does that work? ADHD brains, I'm going to geek out on the theory a little bit here. ADHD brains don't love the starting line, right? We can sprint forever once we're in motion. But asking us to start is like asking a cat to take a bath, right? Not going to happen. But for 5 minutes, that feels doable. So set a timer. Tell yourself, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes, and what usually happens is you keep going. So that's fine. 5 minutes, if that's all you do, that's still a win, but you're probably going to keep going. So it's basically tricking your brain into momentum, right? And momentum, my friends, is everything. So now let's switch gears to just a little bit older and let's do some skills for adults. Okay. Let's talk about this one that is really, really helpful for, those of us maybe sitting here with 72 tabs open on our computer. Okay. Let's externalize our brain. Translation: stop relying on your memory alone. Your brain is a creative machine, but it isn't a filing cabinet, right? The more you try to juggle everything in your head, the more likely you are to drop all the balls and then blame yourself for being lazy or, I hate this term, scattered, right? Instead, just pick one system that lives outside of your head, okay? A whiteboard in the kitchen, a notes app you actually use, sticky notes taped to your bathroom mirror, and yes, your steering wheel. Just choose one. But when something pops up, an appointment, an idea, a chore, right? Or that amazing world and life-changing invention, you put it in there, okay? Immediately, now, not I'll remember later, now. This frees up your mental bandwidth, right? And then you stop carrying the 47 to-dos in your brain. And suddenly you have space for actual thinking, creativity, and that's right, that other thing called peace. So let's go to some questions. I did ask some of my clients if they wanted me to talk about any like specific things because I was telling them that I would be posting the first episode. So here's one from a teen client. Why does it take me forever just to start my homework? I want to do it, but I can't just get moving. Good one. That goes right into what we said before with the 5-minute rule. So remember, ADHD is that starting line problem, right? Your brain will see something like homework and just kind of stop right there. So the trick is to kind of shrink that barrier. Tell yourself you're only going to work for 5 minutes on that task. Most of the time, once you start, your brain catches that momentum, remember, and it keeps going. But it only do that and give it that grace if you say, I'm going to start with 5. Small starts is a start, right? So let's get it there. Okay, how about this one? My parents say I'm lazy because I forget things or don't finish chores. Am I lazy? Answer: nope. ADHD and laziness are two totally different things. I mean, you might also be lazy about some things, but that's not what this is. Laziness is choosing not to act, right? ADHD is your brain struggling with executive function. So that's the part that manages memory and planning and follow through. So forgetting isn't the same as not caring, right? So, what's one good trick? Externalize your brain, right? We talked about this before, where write things down, leave sticky notes, right, in obvious places. It's not cheating; it's smart brain management. Let's go to some adult questions. I'm always late to work, to dinner, to everything. I swear I start on time and then bam, I'm late again. How do I fix this, Denise? Good one. This is shared by all ages, right? This is called time blindedness. It's a common ADHD struggle where like 5 minutes feels like 30 seconds, right? So try time anchoring. Okay. Set alarms, when to leave, not just when to start getting ready, right? Build in buffer time too. It's beautiful, actually. If it takes you 20 minutes to get somewhere, set your alarm for 35. Also, sometimes tell yourself that the event starts 15 minutes earlier than it really does. You're not bad with time. This is really important to know the distinction. You just need external cues to keep you on track. That goes back to that self compassion, right? Let's do another one. I feel so scattered at work, half finished emails, tabs everywhere, interruptions. How do I actually focus? Help me. Okay. So in a nutshell, your brain is craving novelty, right? So that makes focus a little slippery. Try body doubling. I talk about this in some of my other videos on here. If you work alongside somebody else, even if it's virtual, your brain mirrors their focus. You can also chunk the tasks, right? Pick one priority for the next 20 minutes and then shut down some extra tabs and write it on a sticky note in front of you. ADHD focuses on what it wants to in front of it in that moment. So as long as you can self-start giving yourself that 5-minute rule, you can go. Okay, sometimes I feel like I'm too much, too loud, too forgetful, too emotional. How do I stop feeling broken? Okay. First of all, you are not broken. You're wired differently, right? ADHD brains are creative. They're fast moving, full of energy, but society hasn't caught up with us yet, right? They're not built for that wiring. So what helps? Self compassion. Talk to yourself like you would a friend. This is hard, but I'm learning, right? Surround yourself with people who see your strengths, not just your struggles. And remember, your ADHD brain is not less at all. It's different, right? And that's not like a bad word. Different has power. So, in a nutshell, you've got these two skills, no matter how old you are, to start working with, right? The 5-minute rule to beat that starting line paralysis and externalizing your brain, right? To stop drowning in all that mental clutter. And over these next episodes, we're going to go deeper and deeper about all of this, right? Why ADHD emotions feel like a roller coaster without brakes and how to ride them instead of crashing into the guardrails, right? And the truth about procrastination and how to flip it into productivity. Also, we can talk about how like parents and partners can stop playing the blame game and start building real teamwork, right? We can work together when we know who our child or our partner is and how their brain works. And maybe even how and why hyper focus can make you feel like a superhero one day, but a disaster the next, right? So we're going to talk about all of that because the reality is living with ADHD isn't about fixing yourself. There's nothing broken. It's about discovering new ways to thrive with the brain you already have. And it's about laughing at the chaos, right? Learning the skills and giving yourself some grace along the way. So stick with me, subscribe, Share this with someone who needs it. And let's build a world where thriving with ADHD is the norm, not the exception. I'm Denise Santangelo, and this is Thrive After Three. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, your brain isn't broken, it's just wired differently. And that wiring, right, it can light up the world. Thanks so much. Until next time.